All right, so now we're going to actually go through the whole process of solving a system using the elimination method. But the first thing that we're going to do is to use Desmos and graph it, just so we remember what it really means to have a solution. So let's go ahead and open up Desmos. Let's make sure we have that. Let's try that again here. There we go. Struggling a little bit there for a sec. All right, let's go to Desmos and let's actually put those two equations in. So our first equation was 4x plus 3y equals 10. And our second equation is negative 4x, so minus 4x plus 5y equals 6. All right, so you will notice that we get our two lines and that they do cross. And remember, our goal there is to figure out what point is on both of the lines, what point makes both equations true, and we see that with the intersection point of these two. So let's go ahead and screenshot that and crop it up so we can bring it in easily to our notes here. Let's see, actually, let's go this way. Shrink it down a little bit to fit, drag it in here. Okay. So now we can see that the solution is 1, 2. That is the intersection of these two lines, and therefore it is the set of an x and y that works in both of the equations. All right, so now let's see how that would work with our method. All right, so we're going to add these two equations together like we were doing on the last page. And remember, if we add these equations together, that means 4x plus negative 4x. Okay, so those become 0. 4x plus negative 4x would be 0. 3y plus 5y would give us 8y, and 10 plus 6 would give us 16. So that eliminates the x. We're left with 8y equals 16. And one thing that I want you to notice is that we really do get a third equation here. And this third equation is 0 plus 8y equals 16, or just 8y equals 16. So let's just type that in here. Give ourselves a little bit more space. So if you want to do 0 plus 8y equals 16, you can, and that is just the same thing as just saying 8y equals 16. But what I want you to notice is that there's a third line that's graphed, and notice it's a horizontal line. Remember we talked about when you have just a y equals equation without an x, that means the y value is always the same. That means a line is going to be going just straight across. But what I want you to notice is that line straight across goes through that same exact point. All three lines still cross at that same exact point of 1, 2. All right, that third line, if it had been up here, up top here, or down here, I guess you can't really see where I'm pointing, but if it had been higher on the y-axis or lower on the y-axis, it would not have crossed at that same exact point. But since it did, then it has that same solution. So let's screenshot that. And bring that in here. Okay, so what does that tell you? What does the graph tell you about the step you took in number 2? And remember, number 2 is back up here. Well, it tells us we get a third equation that has the same solution. So I'm going to say it tells us that the 0 plus 8y equals 16 equation has the same solution, same intersection. Intersection point of 1, 2. Okay? So think back to the beginning of our lesson when we talked about if we add these two original diagrams together, we get a third diagram, but the third diagram remains balanced. All right? And that's kind of like what we're doing here. We added the two equations together, we got a third equation, and the balance really means that the equations have the same solution. Remember, when we're solving an equation, sometimes we add or subtract from the same side of the equation, or we divide or multiply both sides of the equation to keep them balanced. And that's really what we're doing here. We're creating a third equation. By adding them together, we're creating a third equation that is still balanced and has the same solution. So let's just continue on what we were doing up here and just follow this method all the way to its conclusion. So we already added them together, and we got 8y is equal to 16. All right, if we do our algebra here, to undo multiplication, we'll divide, and we get y is equal to 2. All right, there's that y value of 2 in our solution. All right, so how do we get the x value of our solution? Well, let's go back up. Remember, we have two equations back up here in our system. You can take either equation, but we're going to maybe take that first equation since it has no negative signs in it. I'm just going to rewrite that here. So 4x plus 3y equals 10. And now we're going to do that substitution in there. We're going to put the value of 2, since y is equal to 2, we'll put 2 in for y. And now let's go ahead and solve this. So this simplifies. 3 times 2 is 6. So 4x plus 6 is equal to 10. Now it's just a two-step equation. So to undo the adding of 6, we will subtract 6. 10 minus 6 is 4. And then to undo 4 times x, we're going to divide both sides by 4. And x is equal to 1. And there we have our other value. So x is equal to 1 and y is equal to 2. Those are our solutions, or that is our solution.